This isn't your typical barbecue story. I mean, sure, it's filmed in Texas, and it's got lots of brisket, and ribs, and smoke. But it didn't start in the back of a smoky Texas pit house, or in a butcher shop 100 years ago. It started in an oil field.
Basically, I'd cook the food all night long from the time I got home from the oil field.
We talked about it, and I thought that he needed to decide barbecue or the oil business.
And I said, it's time to sell the house.
Wow, look at that.
Layers of flavor.
And was like, man, you need to show this to the world. If Jay's cooking it, I'm eating it.
I grew up in Abilene. Me and my wife were both born here. My dad and grandpa were in the oil business together. My dad was new to it when I was a baby, but my grandpa had been doing it. You know, it's the oil business, it's up and down, but they were really good at it.
Jay's a hard worker. My dad had a farm down in Santa Ana, and every weekend he'd go down. He loved the outdoors, and he loved working with my dad. He liked art, and he liked building things for the yard, and anything he did it right. Now, you know, he was a teenage boy too, but I mean, he was good at what he did. My dad was kind of that way. He liked to build things, and he and Jay'd get together, and they did lots of things together.
My dad was more of a griller than a smoker. My grandpa was more into longer cooks and more into the bigger meats. And I don't remember what the occasion was, but he hired some people to come and dig a hole in his backyard and cook a pig in the ground. And I remember because as a kid, I thought it was pretty disgusting.
Well, you know, we'd always have get-togethers, and of course, if you had a get-together, you had food, and a lot of times it was barbecue. Joe Allen's was the one that was probably the most popular, and he started right down the street on Treadway, a little place there.
We always ate at the local barbecue joints. I remember one time, me and my buddies loaded a bunch of hay, and we made enough money to go to Joe Allen's and order a brisket plate, and we blew all of our money.
All right, Jay, what are we cooking first?
We're doing pig candy today.
Oh, that stuff is so good. You can teach me the whole process?
The whole process.
All right, let's do it.
Start with a big slab of pork belly and put it on this nice Drip Easy pan and tub. Thanks, Al.
Hey, thanks, Drip Easy. It's kind of cool when the sponsors send you stuff that you're actually going to use every day.
We're going to use it, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep. And really all we're looking for is any excess fat, and then if there's anything real thin, we'll kind of trim it off and repurpose it in our sausage.
Which also is a worthy destination for it.
Yes, sir. All right, that one's ready to go.
Well, that's it. That's all we got to do.
Yep.
We're not going to take any of the other stuff off of here.
Nope.
Okay.
That's all going to be good stuff. And this one looks pretty good. We don't season them yet, so they're ready for the smoker.
We don't season them.
Nope, they'll get plenty later. So we're going to smoke them at about 200 degrees and keep it real smoky for about an hour and 45 minutes. And then we're going to raise the temperature to about 250 and finish them off 3 hours later.
Okay. Let's talk about meeting a pretty girl.
That was 1994. Taco Bueno used to be a little hangout. A couple of my buddies loaded up in my Jeep, and we thought, well, let's go see who's at Taco Bueno.
He pulled up in his Jeep, and I was like, ooh, that's Jay Stearns. I knew, he didn't probably know who I was. And he was with another guy that I had known already. And somehow it ended up to where they were following us and ended up at my house. Sorry, Mom and Dad, they weren't home at the time, but I had some friends over, and then they showed up and said, hey, Diana, somebody wants to meet you out here. I was like, oh my God, I think it's Jay Stearns. He was a little older.
Well, it just happened that all of a sudden, he started dating my daughter. My son, he didn't like that at all.
All the girls really liked Jay, and good guy all around. Then my sister comes around and tells me that she's dating Jay, and I'm like, he's my age, D. Like, what are you can't date Jay Stearns. I was being the big brother against it, you know, for a while, and thought, oh, this won't last that long.
What was it about her that made you pay attention?
Well, everything. She's a really nice person. Looks aren't bad. That never hurts.
Back in 1994, you wear this little Daisy Dukes. And I remember him telling me, I probably shouldn't even say this, but I remember him saying, hey, just stand in front of my Jeep, let me turn the lights on and do a little twirl. And I did it. I don't know why. And he's like, yeah, you can go and go talk to me. And then after that, I mean, we just hit it off and started dating.
Honestly, we pretty much been together ever since.
I just remember after the first or second date, I told my mom, I'm gonna marry that guy.
And so high school sweethearts end up long-term together.
Brisket time?
Yes, sir. All right, we use a good quality prime brisket. Get it out of this wrapper.
Always prime.
Yes, sir. Always
Okay,
prime.
good.
Got to go with the good stuff. First thing we do is take this piece out, this hard fat, and we really haven't found a good use for it.
So that's not going to end up in sausage.
No, pretty much everything else winds up in sausage. So the next cut we make is to take this side off here,
Okay.
where it's kind of been browned in the processing. This also lets us see what kind of brisket we're working with. If there's good marbling, this is where it's gonna show, and that ought to be a really good brisket.
That looks pretty.
Yep,
Yeah.
that'd be a good one. So once we get that, we can get a little more of that out. And then we work some of this fat off. We don't get all of it. If it's real thick, we definitely wanna go after it. Then we flip it over, and then the mohawk, we take that off,
Okay.
about like so.
And the mohawk will end up in the sausage.
That's
flour.
definitely ended up in sausage, yep. Take out this little wad of fat here at the edge of the point, and that also, when it's on the cutting block, lets us know where to make that center cut.
All right, so we're leaving a little bit of a mohawk bump just as a marker.
Right. Yeah, we'll kind of smooth that out a little bit, but
Okay.
about like so. Next thing we do is just look for any real thick fat and thin it down to about a 1/4 inch or so.
We're gonna do that Texas 1/4 inch.
Yeah,
Okay.
try not to get into it too bad. This one actually is pretty well trimmed already. And then from there, we're just gonna shape it up and round the corners and try to get a little more sausage meat out of it.
Yeah, you don't really feel bad doing a heavy trim on brisket when you can sell it as sausage.
No, that's right. You gotta, at $4.50 a pound, you gotta get it where you can.
Yeah,
That's about it. Just gotta look for anything hanging off. But this thing's ready to season.
pretty simple.
Pretty simple.
Let's get back to our heroes. As I'm sure you guessed, there's an epic love story to go along with the epic barbecue story. But that's not what you're here for. Dee and Jay set off to make a life for themselves a few hundred miles away in Austin, Texas. Jay went to tech school and started a career at Dell. Dee, who'd always been good with numbers, went into finance, and things were going well. Until
I was there for about 10 years, and they said, y'all have about a year to either get relocated to Lebanon, Tennessee, or find something else to do because we're outsourcing. I was talking to my dad about it. He got thinking about it and said, you know, I'd like to grow my business in Abilene.
I had a man at my church that had retired from the wireline business. And so I said, would you want to train Jay to be a wireline person? And he said, yeah, he would. So I asked Jay.
And said, you know, I'm just a oil field service company now, but I could go into the technology side with the wireline. Of course, I was ready to go.
We talked about it, and I guess at the time I was, you know, I mean, wherever you go, I'm going. And we moved back to Abilene. It wasn't easy for me because I left a lot and I was like, what am I gonna do here? You know, Abilene, everybody says, is like a black hole. Like you leave it and somehow you come back. And I said, I'm never coming back, but never say never.
all right, let's see how we do those spare ribs.
Yeah, let's get them trimmed up.
So do we do a heavy trim on this?
No, we don't. We just shape it up a little bit. So we can start with this flap, which also makes good sausage meat.
Yeah, it does.
And then we take this brisket bone off the top.
Now, do we use that for stock or does that end up getting trashed?
We just trash it.
Okay,
Yep.
that's unfortunate.
Yeah. Big pieces of fat we'll kind of go after, not too much because it renders down.
So do you pull the membrane if there's a membrane on there?
We don't, but this one doesn't have it anyway.
I'm on the same school of thought. I think it doesn't make a difference. If it does, I think it makes it better. Having
Yeah,
the
holds
membrane
in a
at
little
least holds
juice
some
in
of that
there.
juice in there.
Yep.
All
So
right.
then we just kind of shape it up. Anything loose, try to get it off of there.
And this is really just getting those thin pieces off so that they're not going to overcook, right?
Yeah, the temperature we cook at, they would just burn up.
And we don't mind trimming it because your sausage is so good.
There you go. Yep,
All right.
gotta have sausage meat. That's really all we do to it. It's ready to season.
So coming back into the family business at that point, at least, I felt like an exciting move.
Oh yeah. We were on a wireline truck and we'd go out to wells and basically log them. We'd pull a map and find the oil zones, the water zones. My dad had plenty of contacts. He had wells himself and he was pretty forgiving if we boogered something up.
Jay was a fun boss, you know, he never got on to us unless we needed to be gotten onto. If we messed up, You know, he told us what we did wrong and said, have you learned the lesson? Yes, sir. He's like, all right, we're moving on.
He knew kind of the routines out there, and he just took off and ran it. We added a second truck and had a second crew, and he did a great job with it. He always does a good job.
So we're settling into Abilene. Jay's work in the oil fields. It was just Jay and I at the time, and we really wanted a family. We had struggled with a lot of that in Austin. We had a few losses before Jet. I know, I still get, I can talk about it actually a little bit easier now, but it was hard, you know. So we were married 10 years before our son came along, and that was just a miracle. He's our only, and just call him our little miracle baby. So it all turned out good because it was nice to have my mom here and my dad and help with that, and Jay's parents and help with that. So once especially Jet came in, you know, it was really nice to have family close by.
So before we make the pig candy, we got to make the sauce.
Okay. Now, is this a sauce that we're just using for the pig candy?
Only the pig candy.
Only pig candy.
Yep.
All right.
Start with some ketchup. We'll use the whole bottle.
That makes it easy.
We'll use a whole bag of light brown sugar,
Okay, I like these measurements.
cup of white sugar.
Okay.
Hit it with some apple cider vinegar, about 2 cups. Put a little splash of Worcestershire in here.
Worcestershire. You say that with such confidence, like you know how it's pronounced.
Yeah, I don't. And then last is our secret spice.
Secret. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Nobody
kids.
knows.
Nobody knows.
Yep. And then we just whisk it up.
That's it?
That's it. That's all there is to it. We just need to heat it up on the stove long enough to melt the sugars.
Okay.
While that warms up on the stove, pig candy is all about layers of flavor.
Okay.
So let's start with our all-purpose rub and put it together.
Okay, so this is the house.
This is the
AP.
house seasoning. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, what do we got?
We start with chili powder.
Okay.
Right. And then next we go in with some light brown sugar.
Great.
And then we hit it with some kosher salt.
Looks like a pretty standard AP rub so far.
Yep. A little bit of garlic. Yep.
Okay.
And last is 16 mesh black pepper.
Okay. Feel like I've seen 16 mesh pepper in a barbecue joint once or
A few
twice
times.
before.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Kind of a Texas standard.
All right.
That's it. If you will, shake it up.
All right, just hard shake.
Hard shake. Yep.
All right, and I'm gonna shake it up without singing a Taylor Swift song. I'm gonna
Right.
resist the urge so that my daughter doesn't disown me.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
How'd I do?
Fine job. We got one more spice to make. We got to make some rib rub.
Rib rub.
Yep.
Okay.
Start with some
See if I
seasoned
got the
salt.
skills here. All right,
Yeah, okay.
seasoned salt,
Yep.
white salt.
Kosher salt.
All right, and paprika.
Paprika.
All right. I'm pretty good without labels on them.
So
I'm
far, so
holding
good.
up. Is this garlic or onion over here?
Yep.
Okay, it's one of those. Okay, we're gonna call that one garlic, and we're gonna call this one over here onion.
Yep. Sounds
All
good.
right. I recognize that light brown sugar and straight chili powder.
Straight chili powder.
Okay, and I think we all know what this is.
Yep.
All right,
My turn to shake.
you gonna Taylor Swift it up?
I am.
All right, show me the way.
Let's shake it up.
Oh, see, there's some technique here. You're doing a
Shake and
twist and a
twist.
turn.
Yeah.
I just got put in my place here. I feel like I have some studying to do.
Well, it's all in the wrist.
That's what they say.
That's what they say. So I joined a Jeep club. I had a Jeep, and that's when I bought my first welder, was to repair Jeeps. Eventually, of buying parts and scrapping parts, I had a pile of metal in the corner of my garage that looked like I could build a smoker out of it. So I took the gas tank skid plate and I put some pipe legs on it. I knew it was the ugliest thing you've ever seen, and I didn't even think it would work, but it did. And I cooked a brisket on it first.
How was the brisket?
It was pretty smoky because that thing had not enough airflow, and honestly, it was maybe the first brisket I ever cooked. Eventually, I could kind of tailor the pits I was building to what I wanted to cook. If I wanted to cook a bunch of ribs, I'd build the pit a little different where it'd run hotter, or briskets, I'd choke it down a little bit where it's smokier. But I had that advantage to where I could pretty much build anything I wanted.
So for the ribs, I see a bottle of mustard. You must be School of Mustard.
You gotta have it, yep. Holds that spice on. We do a light coat on the back.
Okay.
It's as much for looks as anything. Pat it in a little bit and flip it over. And this is the side we want to get nice and even and a
All
little
right,
bit
so we're
heavier.
just getting some color on the back, but the
Right.
top is where you're paying attention?
Yep,
I like that shaker you're using. Is that like a smoothie
it is.
shaker or something?
We buy so many of those ninja blenders that we got these things everywhere. Might as well use them.
And this is the seasoning that we made earlier that we did for the pig
Pig
candy,
candy,
right?
yep.
Okay.
Same rib rub.
And that's it? That's all we got to do?
Ready for the smoker.
All right. Now, what about the brisket?
Yeah.
Is there a trick to seasoning? Is there super secret method?
No, just get it on there thick. So we start with a half mustard, half cider vinegar binder.
Half mustard, half ACV.
Yep, rub it down on that side. Flip it over, hit this side.
Well, I can smell it. It actually smells really good.
Yeah, that's a good combo.
So what rub are we using?
This is our house rub. This same rub we just made for the pig candy. We also use it on briskets, pork butts, hamburgers when we do them.
So the stuff we made inside, you bottle. There's no changes. It's the
No
same
changes,
stuff. So
yep.
people want to do your flavor profile, they can buy your bottle.
Come and get it.
Come to Abilene,
Come get
bring
it.
some home. Okay.
Yeah. So first thing I like to do is start with the sides, make sure I get good coverage, and then just start working the big sections. We'll get that on pretty thick,
Okay.
pat it in real good.
There's a lot of seasoning
We
going
put
on
a lot of
here.
spice. Yep. We go through a little bit. Pat that in. And that's ready to sit in the fridge overnight.
So we have a big chili cook-off here in Abilene out in Buffalo Gap every year. My dad and my brother actually got into the scene where they're real serious about it, but not in a million years would I have thought that's what we would be getting into. But he started entering these cook-offs, Jay.
So I showed up, I threw in brisket, cooked chili, cooked everything. It was time to turn in my brisket. Diana showed up with Jay.
And they were showing me what they were cooking, and it kind of piqued my interest a little bit.
So during those competitions,
Mm-hmm.
was Jay learning from your dad and your brother?
My dad and my brother would probably tell you he was.
So Jay cut my brisket. Then when they had the awards for brisket, I went up there and got a prize on my first cook-off. So I went up there and had the trophy, and on the back I put Victor Lopez, the chef. Then down here put Jay, meat cutter. Yeah, who knew?
So Jay got the recognition for that first award as cutter, right?
That was my first kind of cook-off experience, big-time barbecue experience, and then from that point on, it was competitive. But just between us, who can win something with this one? And I'd always show up with some new smoker.
Oh, we got nothing to worry about. That's not going to be anything. But then years go by and the equipment started to get prettier and prettier. All of a sudden, he started winning awards for the equipment he was building.
He built me a smoker, then he built my son a smoker. Beautiful jobs. And he built one about the size of that car right there. And he sold it to a guy in Seattle, Washington.
Jay was the cutter. Now Jay's starting to be a little bit of a winner. So we had to step up our game.
They did. They would compete against each other and talk about who brought the most trophies home, or, you know, I got him and this and that.
I'd always pick up the best pit award, usually. Her brother always won best chicken, and I'm sure he'll tell you about it.
I'm proud to say that, you know, I was a 3-year first place chicken winner, and I won my share of ribs. And I don't know, I think Jay won a couple awards now and then, but never what we won at the time. So then he had to go do this to show us up and put lines around his building to show who's really #1 in barbecue.
Man, those are pretty. I don't think I've ever seen a smoked pork belly without any seasoning on it.
Right. So now we're gonna full wrap them and get them into the fridge. Right now, if you tried to slice it into cubes, it's just gonna fall apart because it's half rendered.
All right, so is there like a method of the madness? Is this a fat side up, fat side down? Just get it in the
We're
foil.
just getting it in the full and getting
All
it chilled.
All right, so this is going to the cooler
Yep.
for how long?
Overnight, it'd be best. A couple hours would probably do it.
All right. So how cool is this? Like, it's not every day that we get a sponsor that's a product that I get to use every day in my own home that I get to introduce to folks like Jay. This barbecue drip easy tub, this is one of my favorite products. So it's a cutting board. It comes up as a tub so we can use it for seasoning, marinating, and storing stuff overnight. It's got an airtight lid that we put on here. All of this plastic is BPA free, which means it's food safe, it's easy to use, it's great for the kids at home. You can even use this to serve. And then they came out with this new line called Seconds, which is the same kind of collapsible material, but this is where you store your leftovers. So this is so much more efficient to store stuff than the stuff that you got to stack in the cabinets. And it's made out of the same safe materials. All this stuff is dishwasher safe. These are microwave safe. It's something that I got to introduce to Jay, and I'm really excited to introduce it to you. So there's a link on the screen right now. There's a QR code if you want to scan that if you're watching on your TV. I'll also put the link in the description and in the first comment so that you can get your hands on these. Check out the products these guys have. It's a really cool company, really cool products, stuff that I think you're going to enjoy as much as I do.
All right, we're about 3.5 hours in. Let's check out these ribs and see if they're ready to wrap.
Oh, look at that.
Yep, they're starting to foam up a little. That usually means the fat's really rendering and they're ready to roll. We're gonna sauce the foil first and lay the ribs meat side down. And this is just a thinned down barbecue sauce.
Thin down with?
Cider vinegar and apple juice.
Okay.
Pull the sides in, give it a quick roll. And then back on the smoker, meat side down.
So sauce.
Yep. Ribs.
Meat side down.
Meat side down.
Look at how nice that membrane looks on the back.
Yeah.
That's so pretty.
Those are gonna be good ribs.
Yeah. All right. Mine's not looking as neat as yours. Hopefully it's gonna taste as good.
I bet it will.
All right, there's one, there's two, and then back meat
Back
side
on
down,
the,
right?
Yes, sir. That's it.
All right, let's wrap the rest of them.
Sounds good.
I woke up one Saturday morning to a text message. It was Jay. He was having a little family barbecue. We went and, you know, we're hanging out in his backyard. He's got his smoker going and he walks up to my wife, hands her a rib, and she says, "No, thank you. I don't like meat that's on a bone." He kind of looked her a little sideways and was like, "Take it." And she was like, "Okay." She took one bite and she was like, "You got to learn how to do this." I knew right then that this dude is bound for something else.
So these have been on for about 90 minutes.
So about 5 hours total.
About 5 hours total. We're
Okay.
looking for the bones to be pulled back, and then we just kind of pinch the meat between the bones. And if it's good and tender, they're ready. Go ahead and,
Okay, they still got some structure.
yeah, they're not falling
So
off
these
the
aren't
bone,
done
but-
yet?
No, they're good to go.
Oh, they are?
Yep. Now we unwrap them and we'll move the fire back. We're not looking for heat anymore, they're done. Open the stack, we're looking for airflow.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And you're just letting the juices fall. The smoker will deal with it.
Smoker will deal with it.
There's a slogan, and it's on the t-shirts, and it says, "If Jay's cooking it, I'm eating it." The quote just says, "Neighbor guy," and I'm neighbor guy. And that came from Jay and Dee would always have us over to the house. They're kind of a core group. At one point, Jay was talking about cooking something, and everybody's like, yeah. And I said, "I'll tell you what, if Jay's cooking it, I'm eating it." And we got to the point where it was me and a couple of people where we actually sat Jay down and was like, "Man, you need to get this out there. You need to show this to the world. You could make money doing this."
Pork's cold and ready to cube up. Let's make some pig candy.
That means I get to eat it when we're done.
That's what that means. Hand me one of those and
All
I'll
right.
cube it up. So after it rests in the fridge, it's firmed up enough where we can cut it and not fall apart on us. And we're looking for about 1-inch cubes on this.
Okay.
Get these in the pan. All right, Al, why don't you give it a try?
All right. So where did you come up with this idea of this pig candy and this recipe?
We were trying to do what bacon burn ends are. We thought we nailed it. We thought this was how everybody's burn ends were. And then Texas Monthly said they were all over the place, and so we decided we can either keep getting knocked for our bacon burn ends or we can just rename it. Now it's our thing, so pig candy it is.
There you go. You put pig candy and bacon burn ends in front of me. I'm choosing your pig candy every time, so
Yep, people love that stuff.
proof's in the pudding, right?
Layers of flavor, we're getting it.
So first layer of flavor was smoke, second layer is gonna be,
It's gonna be our house barbecue sauce and the all-purpose rub, in that order.
and just spread this all over.
Everywhere on there, yep.
Sauce smells good.
That's a good sauce. All
Now
right.
rub time.
Yep. Just sprinkle a couple of handfuls on there and
Okay.
I'll mix it up.
That's it? Okay.
That's it. That ought to do it.
So we got pork, we got smoke, we got sauce, and we got house rub.
Yep. We're full wrapping it and then put it in the convection oven at 300 degrees for 1 hour. Things were going pretty well.
Until?
Until, like the oil field does, it's up and down. When it would slow down a little bit, we started building smokers.
Jay comes out of his office with a little yellow piece of paper. Has some scribble on it, you know, and he goes, "Hey, all right, this is what I'm thinking about. Go to Mueller, get the metal." And I'm like, okay. Never done metal work ever in my life until I come and work for Jay.
We built probably 20 or 30 pits there.
When they start drawing things out, cutting, the next thing you know, you got a box. And then you got a drum, and then you got the smokestack, and then you turn all this fresh steel into a work of art.
And we'd either use them ourselves and then sell them, or just find somebody that wanted us to build them one and build it and sell it. And that's kind of what we did when it was slower in the oil field.
So it looks pretty different here.
Yep, the
So-
spices have really clung to it.
They really have.
It's a little spotty, so we're gonna touch it up again with a little more rub.
Okay,
Pat it in, flip it over.
so it makes sense why the bark was so intense.
Right, it's got spices
Yeah.
that have really soaked in overnight, and then a fresh layer that gets real crusty.
Right. You probably get more rub to stick doing it this way in 2 stages.
Yep, salt draws a little moisture and gives it another way for it to stick.
All right, ready for the smoker?
Ready for the smoker.
All right.
Yep. We're gonna put it on point side towards the fire,
All right.
and we're not gonna see this brisket again for 6 hours when we spritz it.
Really? So we're not even, no looking, no nothing.
No looking.
All right, have fun in there. When did the cooking become interesting as a business?
When I realized it's more fun to cook on them than build them, you know.
He was smoking more and more. There was actually another business in town that had a delivery service. And we thought, while he was working for his dad, he can come home at lunch, let's try it. Let's just put the food out there.
We got a food license and said, let's just cater. We were living outside the city limits, so we could have a commissary kitchen at our house. Put some smokers up and started making food, and we delivered around town. Basically, I'd cook the food from the time I got home from the oil field, cook it all night long, and then I'd go to work at 8.
We'd take all the pre-orders, and then we had my dad deliver, friends deliver, they'd come home for lunch. And I thought, wow, the people are, like, we're getting more and more orders.
We'd probably have anywhere from 30 to 60 orders a day, and some of those customers are still with us today. A lot of them are.
One of the coolest times at work was guinea pig day. He was working on barbecue at home and trying to master his craft and do all this. And so he'd bring it up to work and say, hey, I need some guinea pigs. And it's like, oh yeah, what is it this time? You know, and I think one of them was burnt bacon ends or burnt bacon bits. Whew! He still makes it to this day.
All right, let's get this out of here and drain the fat off.
Ooh, that looks good.
So now we're gonna add some dark brown sugar to it, and that's really gonna add color and turn it into candied pork belly.
So now another layer of flavor.
Another
brown
layer of
sugar.
flavor, yep.
Just layer, 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 layer.
That's what it's all about.
So back in the oven.
300, 10 more minutes.
Eventually, it got to where it was doing pretty well, you know, just through advertising on the internet, Facebook, and word of mouth. We decided, let's get this thing a little bigger and see what happens. And a food truck was for sale, food trailer in San Antonio. It was $2,800. It's affordable. Let's just go see what it is. And we drove all the way down there, and it was a food trailer, but barely. It
rough?
it was very rough. And I thought, we can't even get back to town with this thing. But I said, why don't we just buy a flatbed trailer and I'll build a shed on it. We're not cooking in it, we're just serving.
So you realize that that's not like a thing normal people do, is decide to go build a
Right.
food trailer.
There again,
right?
hands-on. If I can build it, I want to build it, because if I built it once, I can fix it later.
So he's all of a sudden became a carpenter, and he built this food truck.
The thing about that trailer that got me in a bind was I'd put the window on the driver's side. I didn't think anything about it, but when you go to these events downtown and stuff, you gotta park with your window facing the curb, but you can't be parked the wrong way on the street. So I'd always have to have enough room to swing in backwards, unhook, and then go park somewhere else so that we weren't facing the wrong direction. And I would have never thought about that. So originally when I built that thing, my plan was for Dee and her dad to run it. You know, I'd cook the food overnight just like we were, and then I could even sneak home at lunch and get everything loaded, and then they could just go park and people come to them. The first time we took it out, it was a neighborhood block party for the police department. We had a lot of food, and It was me, Dee, and one of our friends. 3 people's all that you could fit in there anyways. And we showed up over there thinking, hey, this will be pretty fun. There'll be a few people. The next thing you know, they're lined up ready to eat. We started selling this food and people were coming back saying, thank you, and it's good. And both of us got interested then, because it's like, hey, you know what? This actually works. The trailer works. All the stuff works. This is going to be good. But it also made me realize this is a lot of work in here. Dee and her dad aren't going to be able to do this. The only thing it works is to make this work is I've got to be part of it.
So we just thought, okay, it's going to be a weekend thing. It was getting a little bit harder. I could tell, he's like, I've got to go out in the field. There are certain days that he just couldn't do lunch. And so it kind of got a little bit complicated.
So about 2014, that's when the price went from around 100 down to in the 30s. When that happens, a lot of the business around here dries up. Like I say, I'm a hands-on guy, and I wanted to be the guy out in the field pulling the levers and rigging the guns, and I had a crew of guys, and I'm trying to keep everybody busy and keep this thing rolling. And I don't enjoy stuff like that. I mean, I'm not a salesman. I don't know how to change someone's mind from, I've been using this guy for 20 years, why do I need to use you? I am used to solving problems with my hands, and the fact that I couldn't do that anymore in the oil field, it was tough. And my dad, he's not gonna say I let him down, and I know that he doesn't feel that way, but I did. The saving grace to that, without getting in a rut, was whenever I'd get home, I knew it was time to shift gears. I can forget about all that and just let's start cooking something. And the way things were going, me and Dee would talk about it, and we really think the food truck thing would work and this and that. We were kind of on the fence because that's a huge life decision, to just give up on a sure shot family business and start something completely new. Neither one of us has been in the restaurant business. We've never even worked in a restaurant. We didn't know anything about it. So no experience, a trailer that I built that, we'll see how long it lasts. And so we were thinking pretty hard about it.
We pulled up to his dad's office on a Sunday afternoon, and his dad just happened to be there.
She stayed in the car and I went inside, and I was walking to the back past his office, and he said, hey, come here for a second. I said, all right. And he kind of looked at me funny, and he said, what do you want to do? I said, well, what do you mean? I said, I'm just here picking up some stuff. He said, no, what do you want to do? He said, you're kind of doing the oil field and you're kind of doing the barbecue, but you can't do both.
When things are tight, you start looking at everything. And I think I always knew he liked that barbecue business. I think I always knew in the back of my mind that that's really where his passion was and what he really enjoyed. We talked about it, and I thought that he needed to decide.
And I was sitting in the truck, and I thought, man, he's in there for a while.
And it put me on the spot. Here's your ultimatum. Either you got to tell me right now, what are you going to do?
He thought about it for a while, and that's when he came in and said that he thought he'd do the barbecue.
And I went outside and told Dee, and we both panicked, and yeah, she really panicked because hands-on finances.
And he goes, well, we're gonna do barbecue. We're gonna do this. And I was like, what happened? What just happened? And so in my head, I was thinking, how are we gonna afford to do this? It did make me really nervous, but excited at the same time. I thought, okay, we're just gonna have to figure it out.
What do you think drove him to have that conversation with you?
I really think that he did it to help me out. I think he knew, and he knew that I would never leave on my own. We just needed that kick in the ass as a step forward.
We were fortunate enough that John said, you've got you till December with your, I'm gonna pay through December. That's only 2 months to start a business, right?
And Diana said, Dad, in October, you're gonna start driving for me because I can't pull it. I said, all right, I got a job. Man, I was getting all excited. And then about a week later, Diana said, Dad, Jay's got to drive the truck because he told his dad he's not doing oil anymore. So I got fired almost without even starting.
So while these ribs are wrapped and finishing up, let's make some rib jelly to glaze them with at the end.
Rib jelly. I love the names you have for these things. Like,
Yeah. We'll start with some sugar,
of course.
just a little bit.
All right.
All right. Kosher salt,
Okay.
crushed red pepper,
Got it.
pectin to thicken it up,
Okay.
and then we use cherry juice.
Cherry juice.
Yep.
You get this like in the grocery store?
Yep,
I've never
yep.
heard of cherry juice.
Grocery
Other than
store
that,
has
I
it.
find- Okay.
And that's all the ingredients. We'll just throw it on the stove for about 5 minutes to melt the sugar.
Perfect.
So after we paint the rib jelly on, we have our razzle dazzle spice that's the finishing
Where do
spice.
you get these names, dude?
A lot of people call it happy ending, but you know,
I mean, this is a family
Razzle
show,
dazzle.
so we'll stick with razzle.
this is
dazzle.
ours. So
All right,
that's
good.
how we do it. Yep.
All right.
So we start with some brown sugar, and then we go with some chili powder, some white sugar, smoked paprika, little black pepper, a little salt, and then some garlic.
The ribs are already cooked,
Right,
and we already put a rub on them.
right.
So we're putting another rub on them after they're cooked.
Layers of flavor. We know what we like and how to get it. It's
Yeah.
just complicated.
All right, so let's get the stuff on the ribs.
These ribs should be dried out by now and the seasoning set to where we won't
Yeah.
rub it off.
Looks pretty good.
Yep. Let's hit it with some glaze, our rib jelly.
Okay,
Same stuff we made before.
right.
Kind of flatten it out,
All right, we'll brush it on,
brush it on a little bit, and then we'll come in with our razzle dazzle spice.
which I can not think of a rub that is more wonderfully named than razzle dazzle.
Razzle dazzle.
Give me a little razzle dazzle.
That's the magic.
That's the magic right there.
Yep. Let that set for a few minutes, and then that rib's ready to go.
So how did it go at first?
It honestly, we're really good at Facebook. We can advertise, we can throw good pictures, and we're both from Abilene. We know a lot of people.
There was a food park that came because food trucks at the time were kind of a big thing in Abilene. We set up during the week. We did breweries. There was a car lot that we parked every week. He'd offer to pay the first 20 people that would come and eat for us.
We just advertised where we're gonna be for the day, and people would show up. Sometimes it might be 50 or 75, sometimes it might be 150. You kind of never knew. I knew how much barbecue I could cook, and it wasn't a whole lot back then.
In Abilene, for a long time, there's been like a void of true craft barbecue. And I was working over by downtown, and they had a food truck park. I'm like, oh, there's a barbecue place. I'm gonna try it out, you know? And man, once I got that food, it changed the game. Like, I was like, finally, I can be proud of Abilene. Like, this is some good stuff. This is a real deal.
Can't believe we actually waited the 6 hours. Like, that really took it well over the top. I mean, you can see the smoke's following the pattern.
That spice is creating a good bark on it.
I mean, it's not dried out. Do
No,
we
no.
need to spritz it?
It's not for moisture, it's for flavor. So this is the moose juice, and it's the salt and the Worcestershire beef broth. 3 ingredients.
We're gonna do this like every hour or something.
One time, 6 hour mark, and then we let it go for another 4 or 5, and we'll see you this afternoon.
All right, let's see those spare ribs.
Let's see how we did.
Let's do it. I can't wait to taste.
All right.
All right. Wow, look at that. Look at this, guys. Well, they need one, right? All right, which one should you give them? All right, that one's for you guys. You ready?
Yep.
All right, cheers. Oh man, that's good.
Good rib. Yep. Layers of flavor.
I mean, you can see how juicy this still is after setting up cameras and everything for 10 minutes or so. Like,
Right.
that's a feat. I mean, is there something about the way you cook it that makes this
It's just got to be the process, and
Good.
big meaty ribs.
big meaty ribs help?
That does. Yep.
Awesome. What was the food like back then?
Well, it was a limited menu because the trailer was 11 feet by 6, maybe. It was tight. Wasn't the best setup, but we made it work.
It just worked.
Things are going well, and we're traveling around town selling lots of food. And we thought, you know, let's look around town for a lot and just see if we can just park. And then that would save a lot of the hassle of back and forth, loading, unloading. We'll just have it there.
This lot came open, and for a really good price. Like I was like, okay, we can maybe do this. It used to be, so the building we're in now used to be a hair salon. So it had lots of plumbing, so we were like, okay, this might can work into something else, but we used it as storage. We just sat on the lot. He built a couple of picnic tables, and we had a tent. And our lines just kind of kept getting more and more.
And then the city came out and said, no, you can't leave your trailer parked here all. I said, well, it's my lot. People park trailers on their lot all the time. They said, I know, but that's not a trailer. That's a food establishment. You have to take it home every day. So that kind of made that a bust. But the advantage was everybody knew where we were.
I told Jay at that time, I was like, man, you're gonna go somewhere with this. I'm like, keep doing this.
So now we take the pig candy out of the oven, unwrap it with the foil, and drain off the grease.
Perfect.
Next, pour the pig candy sauce on it.
This is the sauce that we made earlier,
This
right?
is the, yep,
Okay.
still good and hot.
All right.
And then we'll stir that around,
Okay.
get them all coated. Now, if you will, hit it with some rib rub.
All right. Like
Yeah.
this, more or
Yep.
less?
No, let's go more. Let's
More?
get it on there heavy.
All right.
Yep.
No shortage of flavor here.
No, we didn't season it on the pit, so we gotta make up for it.
Get this corner so these folks don't feel left out.
Yeah.
This guy. All right, more?
Nope, that'll do it.
All right.
Back in the oven,
All right, so we don't need to toss it again. We're just gonna
Nope.
let that on there.
and it'll form a crust on that layer that's got spice. We'll put these back in the oven at 300 degrees, 25 minutes.
And I said, okay, this business is growing. It's time to sell the house. I said, I don't think we can afford the house that we were living in at the time. It was a little bit much. Like, I was like, I don't want to do big loans. Like, it's time to downsize. We don't need the big shop anymore because we knew we were going to be moving into this building that we had. So the food truck was eventually going to go away. I mean, I won't lie, we still couldn't really pay ourselves yet. You know, like, it's kind of one of those, we have to hire somebody and you're just gonna, I said, so it was living like you were living maybe paycheck to paycheck, except for it's weird on a business. You don't really do that. There's nothing guaranteed coming in, but I would just put stuff back every day. Every day we were open, just so I could make that mortgage payment. I mean, if he says, hey babe, I need $100, I'm like, well, go sell another couple briskets. You know, he's not the finance guy at all.
So, end of the day, been on there about 10 and a half hours.
We really haven't looked at it, so let's see what we
Let's
got.
see what we got. Yep.
All right, so we've dried out quite a bit. I mean, this is a crunchy bark now.
Yep, it's about 180 degrees internal, and it's time to wrap.
Okay.
So we spray the moose juice on the paper, and that covers that top side one more time.
Okay.
So we lay it top side down on top of the moose juice, and then
Okay.
we hit the bottom of the brisket with a good coating.
I can smell it.
Yeah, it's potent.
Yeah.
It really makes a big difference on our briskets. So we're gonna put this in a 180 degree holding oven for 13 hours.
Really?
Yep, it's a hot hold.
That's a hot hold, but I guess we're pulling it way earlier than anybody else does.
Right, right. It seems to be a more consistent product for us. And then from there, it goes into a 140 degree holding oven. It comes down to where we can handle it on the cutting board. And
Wow.
once it drops to about 150, it's good to go.
All right, now I get to eat some pig candy. And how many layers of flavor do we do here? We got pork,
Yep,
smoke, house rub, barbecue sauce is 4.
Yep.
Pig candy sauce is 5.
yep,
Rib rub is 6.
yep.
And then brown sugar is 7. That's a lot of layers
That's a
of
lot
flavor.
of layers, yep.
That might be a record in barbecue.
Yeah.
7 layers.
That's why we don't season them going on the pit. Yep.
All right, let's see what we got. Which one are you going for?
Go for that big one right there.
All right, I'm taking this big one right here.
Yeah.
And you guys take that one right there. You guys take that one, all right?
Yep.
You ready?
Yep.
Cheers. Cheers. It melts in your mouth.
Yep. Tender, sweet, a little bit salty and smoky.
Yeah, I mean, it's got all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the tang, it's perfect. And like to get that process with 273 steps or however you did that, this consistent. I expected it to be different today, but you've got this perfect.
Yep, we make it every day, so.
Oh, dude, you guys got to get some of these.
The whole time we were selling on the lot, we were kind of eyeing the hair salon. We owned it, and it was just kind of an empty little building. And eventually we thought, you know, we're getting busier and busier. The line would go from the trailer out to the street, and we thought, why don't we look at moving into that building? We don't have to change anything, we'll just have more room. And so we did.
He bought it, completely converted it over, built all these tables, built the smokers, you know, all these new ones back here, built everything himself.
And then I still remember that we made enough where my book person said, hey, I think you can make minimum wage. And I was like, really? They go, I think you can start paying yourself. So that, I know that sounds crazy, but it was like your first paycheck. You like, it's, oh, you get to be on payroll now.
How long did it take when Jay stepped away from his dad's business to taking a paycheck?
2 years. Just the money that I was saving, you know, we just put that towards.
So you had to live off your savings,
Yeah.
you had to sell your house.
Yeah, we did.
You just cut up the safety net with a scissors.
Just did it.
and-
I just said, I believed in his product. This is a guy that once he starts something, you know, I just knew he's gonna be successful.
Happy birthday, dear Jay, and all your delicious food. Happy birthday to you.
From catering out of their home as a side gig, to a food truck, to a permanent lot, to now a brick and mortar business with a growing following, it's easy to let that go to your head, and many fall into that trap. But D and J weren't trying to build an empire. They weren't trying to make millions. They wanted something different, something special.
I was worried about the expansion and losing that touch.
That's what happens to a lot of great barbecue. Once they grow, they lose that craft barbecue touch. It becomes mass produced, you know. And Jay's taking a different approach, you know. He's still out there on the pits. He's still cutting meat. I mean, he's all over this place. He's talking to people. So the quality's here. The master's still at work, you know.
He's maintained his quality of food since he started. Actually, it's gotten a little bit better.
The lines over time, they've grown, which has been cool to watch. You'll have fun on the line too. You can get some beers while you're waiting. It's worth the wait.
The crowds are bigger. They line up every day, and best part of my day is I always make sure I'm the one that pops the window open, and as soon as I do, I look, and if there's a line, I'm happy.
Everybody in town knows about Jay's Barbecue. And one of the questions that I always get is, they'll say, did you teach him how to do that? And I say, no, I had nothing to do with that. He's done this all his own from start to finish. And it is amazing what he's done with that barbecue. He and Diana, they've got a really good teamwork, and they're just gonna get better.
How cool is that? I've got the coolest barbecue shack in Texas, Abilene, right down the road from my house.
They get up at 3 to come out here. Not gonna do that. But he's been doing that for over 8-9 years. And that's why I have a lot of respect for Jay and for Diana to stick in there. I said, Diana, you don't even have to go to work. She said, yes, I do.
I still get emotional even thinking about how proud I am of him. I'm very proud of Jay.
What are you most proud of?
Seeing him in his element and like putting his whole heart into it. I'm proud that he loves something so much for us, for the family. I'm proud that he's made sacrifices. I'm just proud of him as a person.
I don't think you'd have this without them both. The sacrifice and the drive that my sister has, you know, is just as important to Jay to make what he does successful and putting it on plates and in front of people.
So how's business today?
Today, business is good. It's a lot more fun now. We've got good employees. I found a really good guy that was familiar with meats, and my whole life got easier. It's still work. I mean, it's a lot of work, a lot of hours, but it's back to being fun.
All right, time to tell whether all this craziness actually produces a difference, huh?
That's right, that's right.
And you think it's gonna be perfect because your process makes it consistent, right?
That's the goal.
All right, let's see. Beautiful bark.
Let's cut this thing, see what we got.
Check that out, guys. All right, no question about juiciness here.
No, sir.
So we're gonna taste the flat first?
Let's do it.
We gotta do it, we gotta do the bend test. There's one. It's pretty. Should we break that up into pieces? One for you, one for me, one for them?
Sure.
All right, I'm taking this corner piece because I'm all about the bark. You guys take this one right here. All right, ready?
Yes,
Cheers.
sir.
Cheers. Super beefy. That bark has got some heat on it. That pepper's coming through, definitely. And I can taste the mesquite.
Yep.
Definitely very different than what we're used to with the post oak brisket.
Yep.
I'm not a flat guy, but it was
Right.
good. I'd eat it. Like
Okay.
you're on that list of folks I would eat. But the true test is,
The marbled. The
yeah.
point. Yep.
Let's see what the point does.
Let's check
All
it
right.
out.
Yeah, we don't need a knife for that, do we? Look at that.
You
All
want
right.
the barky end or the
Barky end, yeah. I'll take
got
the
it.
bark, of course.
Yep.
All right, and you guys get a whole slice. You guys just take that one, just divide that amongst yourselves, okay? All right, we ready?
Yes, sir.
Cheers. Dude, that's really good.
It's rich.
It's rich.
Really rich.
It's not too rich. I mean, if you don't like that good brisket running down your chin, getting in your beards and your flavor saver, then this don't get this point. This is really good.
Yes, sir.
Oh, nice job, dude.
Yeah, thank you.
Perfection.
I don't think Jay realizes how talented he really is. He's a very humble man. After being married for so long, I just saw something in him I've never seen. It's a true passion that he has. He loves it, and he still does after hours of no sleep, or he'll stay up to watch his son's game till 10 o'clock at night and then go to bed for a couple hours, and he just does it all.
So where does it go from here?
People ask that all the time. When are you going to get a restaurant? And I kind of look at them and say, well, I've got one. I get it. It's not air conditioned. It's not heated. It's not always comfortable, but this is barbecue. This isn't fine dining. You know, some of the best places you hear about from the old days was the little roadside stands, and this is kind of a roadside concession stand. You know, people, you either like it or you don't, and the ones that don't, they're not gonna like the food because they weren't happy standing in the line. But the ones that want something different and unique, this is it.